Hello everybody and welcome to another Koality gameplay stream. I am Mr. Koala and today we are going to be taking a look at the patch notes or the developer blog put out for Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier. Now this is the ninth one of these that they've done and I'm super excited because this is where I started with Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier. I was breaking down patch notes when they were putting them out more often and we were really getting into the nitty gritty and the community opinion on what was going to be viable or not viable, and then getting out there and getting out to test it. So it was a ton of fun, and I'm really excited to be looping back to it now. Good night! Rangers might be a must-have in parties. I'm going to toss it over to you, Verenius. Do you feel like Rangers are a must-have in parties right now?
Little. I think this is the one that looks really good. Apparently, some of you guys don't think it looks that good. So I gave myself an 8.
Hello everybody, I'm Mr. Koala and welcome to the Koality Plays Live Invitational number 3. We are everybody welcome to the Koality Plays Invitational number 2. Alright. I am super excited. Like it just like right off the bat, we get a really big change for me. Target lock for melee attacks now display even when holding a gun. That is, I mean, that's something that people have been asking for a while, but not like directly because it's the next line that really is like the tie-in, and not the next line. Oh yeah, it is the next line. I'm sorry, I read down too far. In line with the above, when you tap your melee attack button, you will immediately move into melee attack on the locked on target. Now that is huge because back in it was either like it was one of the first like 2 or 3 dev blogs. They talked about these movement skills that are going to be an unfair advantage to, people that know about them than people that don't. And I like even up to like a month ago, I had people saying, you can't change to your melee without swinging your sword. I'm like, well, you jump melee, but if you don't want to do that, you hold down your gun button. And people didn't know that. So there was like this weird like skill gap that people weren't even knowing existed. And it's just hard for a new player to like have to wrap around all these skills, all these other things, and then add on these extra little movement things. At the high end, I love it. It's super fun. It's enjoyable. Knowing that I could jump melee and be ahead of somebody else in the current state of the game was fun for me. But now, knowing that I can, run at somebody, gunning them, and then instantly go to melee is such a huge quality of life change for me. I'm very, very excited about that. And it's good to see that something they mentioned so long ago is finally, coming into the game here. The time you were restricted from performing actions after getting up from a dodge roll is slightly reduced. This is kind of like a throwback argument that I was having with some of the community members, where I still think the same way. Jump is still the superior movement skill because you can do actions while you're doing it. It doesn't put you in a locked-in state. If the roll made you invulnerable, I think it would be pretty good. But the fact that you can still be shot during it and, good shooters are still going to hit you while you're rolling, it just makes it so, like, the jump is just, you're able to cast during it, you're able to cast once you land, all the time. You don't have to wait till it finishes the animation before you can act again. The fact that they're reducing the after the animation is very good because it's going to make roll more viable, but I still think jump is going to be the superior movement. All right, so now we're going to hop into the individual classes. I didn't talk about the target lock on with the melee and being able to jump out of melee too much because I'm going to be talking about it a lot more once I get to the classes, because that alone is such a quality of life change for not only the predominant melee classes, but even the melee classes that you don't think of as a melee class is now going to be able to use a melee in melee range as a defensive action now. So it's really a quality of life change for all of the classes because everybody has a melee. So now melee is just going to be more consistent, and that's really good for it. But as I get into the individual classes here, we're going to be able to talk more about how that changes the classes. The style trait Fearless Charge now activates when you're holding a gun. I think this is a direct relation to above, because I know you can already use the rush ability with a gun and it pops a shield up on you. Now, the first attack of your melee combo, when you come out of a gun, I'm guessing they probably tested it, and it at first it wasn't, when you go out of the gun, it wasn't throwing the shield up. So now when you go out of it, it throws a shield up. I don't know if that's something that was happening in the game before, because I've never experienced that. But Fearless Charge now activates when holding a gun. Or they're just, I guess that's what they're saying, is that the melee attack activates. Even the dash. It's not just when you get close enough for a melee swing. It's saying even the charge works with it. That makes more sense now. I'm glad I read it out loud. All right. The time you are restricted from performing actions after the third stage in a melee class, our melee combo has been slightly reduced. This one is very, very big because it makes the third attack more viable. We see a lot of warriors right now using the dash and then the second melee, and then backing up and then dashing and using the second melee, and so on like that. It builds the stagger meter fairly fast, and it keeps you moving, so you're a very hard target to hit. That is very strong. But now, knowing that if you land the third attack, the dunk, and you're not going to be locked in there and stuck in that place, you're going to be able to turn around and do more stuff, maybe go into melee again, throw out a spell, pull out your gun. There's going to be so many things that you can do at the end of a full combo now. So third melee is looking very good. We put that in combination with their new spell that is now replacing Counter Shield. Counter Shield skill has been changed to Critical Ending. Critical Ending. Increase the change for the critical hit for the last attack in the melee combo. Now look at this. Critical hit chance. 40% at level 1. 70% at level 2. 100% at level 3. Endgame warrior melee is going to be scary. If they get the third hit on you, that is 100% crit rate. It is going to hit so hard. Imagine they have Punisher on top of that. If a warrior gets in close, it is going to be very scary. And now, think about it. They have a safer, more reliable way to get in close, because now they can keep their gun out up until they get to that melee range. They don't have to do this jump swing where they're going to be, oh my god, this guy's going to be swinging at me in a second. He's going to dash in a second. Now, I'm going to have my gun out there until I hear that ding, and I know I'm locked on, and then I'm dashing right at you. That is so scary right now. And, a lot of people are going to overreact to not only this one, we're going to see it in some of the other classes, and say, oh, that's too strong, that's too strong. There's still the same counterplay. Like, I'm still going to be in the open when I'm trying to move into place to get into melee range. But at this point, it's making it so, because right now, think about back, season 3, they changed guns a lot. And since then, it's been predominantly gunplay, to the point where blind is just like almost needed all the time. But now, it's making it so, melee, guns are still strong. This is still a shooter game. Guns are still going to be strong. But now, if I get in close, my melee is more reliable. So it might not be as viable as staying mid-range and just lasering somebody. But now I have, and can feel safe having the option to go in close and use these melee attacks. Especially if I land a crit, it's going to be, everybody's going to panic as soon as that warrior gets in close on you. And if they go for that third melee and you don't get out of the way, you're in a very bad place. So overall, my thoughts of the warrior changes in combination to the melee changes is I think warrior is going to be in a very good place. I think that it's a buff overall, the fact that I can use my gun to get in closer. It does, think about how I worded that, because that's saying, yeah, it promotes more gunplay, but it's more gunplay to use my melee. And I always say that it's going to be the person that combines all of the aspects of this game that usually is going to come out on top in most situations. I say most situations because, there's going to be really good players that are really good at doing certain things, and they're going to be the exception to the rules. But overall, I think the warrior is getting a fairly substantial buff to the third attack. So it makes things, like I said, Punisher more viable. It makes critical, it makes just using the third attack more viable, because before we were just using the 1-2 get out, 1-2 get out. But now you're more likely to say, hey, I'm going to commit to this kill. So I think warrior overall is going to be in a very good place. I think melee as a whole is going to be very strong in this next patch. I don't think that it's going to be like to the point where I'm going to want to do melee way more than I do anything else. No, it's going to be to the point where I'm going to be still using all of my stuff to get in close and do all the things I like doing by combining all these things together. Because now I know that if I get in close, I feel confident using my melee. But let's switch gears here and swap over to Sorcerer. Reinvigorate skill has been changed to Staggering Touch. I am super excited for this one. Even as a melee user or someone who prefers to use melee, this one just seems absolutely bonkers in like a good way. Like, this sounds absolutely fun. This sounds like Final Fantasy. This sounds like sorcerers are just going to be raining staggers down from the sky. Grant you the ability to stagger enemy candidates with attack materia. Stagger gauge fill amount. Level 1, 100%. Level 2, 110%. And level 3, 120%. This sounds like so much fun. Just popping off and hitting. It's like before. Like, let's talk about the stagger meter for a second. I mean, on top of the fact that it's hard to know when you're about to be staggered other than the blinking. Like, you don't know before that. You don't know when you're almost in the warning. You just know, oh my god, I'm about to be staggered. So, let's think about that. In melee, I was talking to someone earlier. When I get into a melee fight, I was going up against a lot of tricksters lately because everybody's leveling tricksters. And their stagger amount is so high. They hit me with 2 melee and I'm like, I gotta back up. I gotta run. I gotta get out of here. Now imagine someone doing that from a distance. What? That is, like, I am so excited for this. Attack material. So I'm pretty sure that means anything that does damage, right? It has to be anything that does damage is going to do a stagger. And trance and then spells. Like I said, they're just going to be raining stagger from the sky. Sorcerers let's talk about Monk. The Mana Wall ability has been changed to Chakra Mana Wall. The Chakra Field ability has been changed to Vigor. Vigor. I don't know how to pronounce that one. I know it's pronounced different ways in different places. A recovery speed up effect has been added to Awakened Strength. I'm going to skip to the Awakened Strength ones because that's going to be the easiest one to talk about. Awakened Strength before added an amount of health to your inner strength, so you made it so you recovered more health. Now it will also recover it faster. So it's going to recover more and faster. The amounts are 14% faster, 28% faster, and 42% faster. Monks overall are getting a fairly substantial buff. They're going from the support class to the more tanky class. And I'm very excited about that. I know there's some people that are a little nervous that the melee is going to be a little too strong, but I think the same counterplays are still going to be viable. I just think that you're going to have to commit more to them now. And that's a good thing. Like, we should be having to commit certain things to certain classes and certain abilities, because if they start becoming viable, you know, you're going to have to start mixing this in, and then that starts bringing in counterplays, and that's how metas are formed. So I'm really excited about these changes. So let's hop into them. Chakra Mana Wall effects. Creates a defensive field in front of you that removes poison and then recovers HP for candidates within the field. The size of the defensive field is 1.5 times the size of the original Mana Wall field. Okay, so there we go. That last field is what I was missing when we were just discussing it earlier. I didn't notice that they called it Mana Wall Field before. So that makes more sense. It sounded to me, because, you know, Chakra Field, so it sounded like you were just getting a field. But the fact that they call the original Mana Wall Field is clearly saying, hey, we're gonna have a bigger wall in front of it. I hope it still has a wall. I'm still like maybe it doesn't have the wall anymore, but it says mana wall. So I'm really hoping, because that was the fun part of that spell, is just like the chakra field. I didn't really run that often, and I understood why it was viable, why it was good. It's very good for team play. But I love the mana wall. Like, I would trap people in with it, or I would use it in a sticky situation. So the wall to me is very monk. So I'm very happy that it's still here. But the spell that I think people are going to be running more is Vigor. Nullifies blow away attacks. So no tornado's going to knock them away. That means no. I wonder if that means Fireball isn't going to knock him back. Punisher. I'm not sorry, Punisher, but Warrior melee, so the final attack of any melee combo. I believe that it makes it so none of those are going to work anymore. If blow away attacks is what that means. So that is very strong in the close range, in the melee. Reduces damage taken and increases the effect of the automatic recovery for the inner strength state for a short amount of time. Let's talk about Ranger. I see that Morbid's here. Let's talk about Ranger. Unfortunately, let's talk about Ranger. The control ability has been changed to Scout. Now, originally I read this as Scan was changed to Scout, and I was like, Morbid's gonna be so happy. There's 2 drones now. And then I was like, oh wait, no, I read that backwards. So, Scout effect grants you the ability to call a slug ray that will scout the area in front of you for up to a distance of 80 meters and applies a marker on any enemy candidates, after which it explodes, inflicting damage. Viable? Maybe. I mean, I like the idea of being able to place a turret out. Sorry, I'm not standing in my camera. Place a turret out and have it continually scan and potentially do damage. You know, that sounds awesome. That sounds fun. But you know what also sounds fun? Flying my drone around, shooting people, and blowing it up myself. Like, that was, like, the fun part of this class. And now we have an NPC I can just throw out. They should have made it, in my opinion, they should have made it so, you know, yeah, let's make it so we send it out. Make it so that the Ranger is not stationary. The Ranger is not vulnerable. I get that. That is a good mindset. I like that. But what happens when I am safe and I throw that thing out there? Then it's just boring. Like, it's not even a part of me anymore. Like, let me throw it out there and then push towards it, and when I know I'm safe, blow someone up. It's like, I just feel like they took the good part and just made it less good. I mean, that's how I feel about this Ranger change. I think it has viability, because it's going to be able to scan and you can just send it out. It's going to depend on cooldown. If I can send out bot after bot after bot after bot, that's going to be a fun time. But if I can send out a bot and then I have to wait 3 minutes to send out another bot, and then wait 3 minutes to send out another bot, you know, it's just, I feel like I'd rather just scan. I'd rather just scan and be useful, more useful. So we'll see. Ranger to me was in a weird place, and I feel like it got a good buff with the reload speed, and now they're just taking a step back. So that's my opinion on that one. I don't. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see, but it just sounds lackluster to me. Ninja. The time you are restricted from performing actions after the 3rd stage of the melee combo has been slightly reduced. Same as Punisher. I keep saying Punisher instead of Warrior. Same as Warrior. This is, you know, huge for Ninja, because they would get locked into that animation, and then it made it so ninjas, even when someone got in close, the priority was just jump and run away. In this case, now you can at least do damage. So I really like that change. It makes it fairly strong. Their Escapist has been changed into Poison Shuriken. Applies poison with the attack in the 3rd stage of melee combo. I think this is cool. I think that, what are the other options? Light-footed and, Escapist is gone now. So it's light-footed and the one where you take damage, you get to move faster for a little bit. So, you know, what are you going to take? I don't think many people are going to take Poison Shuriken. Yeah, it's a cool effect, and it lasts 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and 6 seconds. But how often are you going to be using your melee 3, even at this with this buff to melee 3? It's still not going to be very often. If you get into a melee only fight and you don't have a gun early on, yeah. But there's so much better about Ninja. And I know some people were like, I know I saw some people say things along the lines of, you know, Ninja and I'm not Ninja, Monk and Warrior were in a good place. They didn't really need a buff. Those were quality of life buffs. Ninja really didn't need a buff. It was good at what it did, and it was high mobility with, you know, materia play, gun play, and, you know, my melee only game mode was won by a ninja. So I think Ninja Melee was fairly good. I never used it because, I mean, they're so mobile. Why wouldn't I just move around, throw a fireball, and shoot them? So I don't think Ninja needed too many changes, and Escapist probably was the least used, so now they're at least trying to shake it up a little bit and see what they can get Ninjas doing. So I like the changes, but overall I don't think Ninja really needed that much changes. So Dragoon. The aerial wall skill has been changed to urgency. Reduces ability cooldown time when you inflict damage with melee attack. Cooldown time reduction is greatly increased when damage is from dive bomb attack. This is like a double hitter. Like, not only does this make dive bomb more viable, but now, you know, you could have people that run high jump, they're going to high jump in. If they hit a dive bomb, or even if they miss it, they're going to be able to go into melee, you know, quicker, or they can even go into melees from gun now, because that's going to work on Dragoon as well. But they go for a dive bomb. If they don't hit it and they hit a couple of melee, they're going to have their high jump back almost immediately, and they're going to be able to jump back. Oh, well, not almost immediately. 8%. It's 8% per swing. If that's the case, then, you know, 3 attacks. That's no, it has 4 attacks, so it's 30% cooldown if I'm doing my math right. That's a pretty good jump. You could get your cooldown, your high jump back faster, but I personally I think I would go favor and really get in close and just wreak havoc on people, and then have that back up again and have that movement speed, have that melee or along with wide swing. Oh no, you can't have wide swing because you have the urgency effect, right? Yeah, you can't have wide swing and urgency. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this all works together, but I think that this makes Dragoon's melee, like the other ones, fairly viable again. And then, like I said, now you have the gun option of when you're moving in, so you have a safer way to get in close and get into that melee range on top of already being able to fly and dive bomb on people. So Dragoons already had pretty viable ways to get in close, and now they're going to have, you know, cooldown reduction on top of that if they choose to run this. I think this is a fairly good quality of life change over the aerial wall, which had its viability because there was a lot of arrow play. There's a lot of time that you are going to be in the air, but I think it was very situational, and overall, I think urgency is going to be a better skill. So I really think Dragoon is going to have, like the other melee classes, going to have really good melee in this upcoming patch. Gadget. I was thinking that was the air gadget. Let me rethink that then. I'm glad you said that more, because I was thinking air gadget. Damage from the skill shooting gadget. So blast gadget was definitely the one that was being used the most. But 7 damage on top of, I mean, I run, what is it? I run the Inferno most of the time. 7 damage, that's 22 damage now. That's a strong gun. Oh wait, am I thinking of the right, is it 15 damage a shot? I don't know. I might be mixing up guns, but either way, whatever the 15 damage a shot is, you add 7 damage on top of that, you add 10 on top of that, you add 13 on top of that. That's like getting shot by 2 bullets now. That's fairly significant. I'm actually super excited about that. Yeah, that's what I was so confused there. I was like, air gadgets was in a good place. Yeah, shooting gadget. So now I'm actually happy about these changes now. Machinist, I feel like were not being used a lot because I mean they have um, situational abilities for the most part, but now, especially with the guns being where they're at, shooting gadget is very good looking now. Machinist in mid range is going to be very strong, and if you apply my logic of being able to use guns to get in close now, because as soon as you hear that ting, you can attack. If you're good at hip firing, especially on machinist, that's going to be very strong. Yeah, I mean that's a very good point. 3 gears, that's 3 bullets, 39 damage. That is, or does that go onto one bullet? I mean, it's like hitting. That's like hitting by 4 bullets. I don't 100% know how that skill works. So talking about it is a little weird for me. But I know that 39 damage is just screwy. That is, and would you say every? Yeah, every 5 seconds. 39 damage every 5 seconds. That's gonna be very scary. Machinist in mid range is gonna be a threat now. That seems very strong. I see now. That's a gun adjustment. I'm excited. Every single thing is getting an adjustment in this patch, and it feels good. Or I should say every playstyle, meaning gunplay, materia, and melee. To compare now, it does 3, 4, 7. Yeah, so 7, 10, and 13. Yeah, it's gonna hit. All right, let's talk about Trickster. I want to talk about Trickster a little bit in the sense that I'm going to talk about Trickster first, and then I'm going to talk about what they're doing in the patch here. I feel like marking card is being underutilized in the sense that people get scared when they're at half health. And well, I shouldn't say that. Some people weren't using it like as an all-in. You know, when you throw it out, you're supposed to lose that half health. That way you go back. And then the people that were doing that, it had this huge animation on it, and it made it so obvious that they were running at you in order to do that. So it was this weird situation where people weren't sure, you know, hey, is this good or is it better than me, hey, destroying out a thing that will definitely shoot at this person? So it just put marking card in a really weird place, but I think it was being underutilized. And I'm really excited for some of these changes because I think it's one of those skills that is going to have these really insane high-end plays that you can pull off that you're going to have a mind in order to do. You're going to have to think about it. You're going to be like, oh, I could throw this down here, and then I can go over here and run around. And if they're there, you know, I'm just drawing the focus over there so my team can flank around this way. Or as soon as I get blown up, I'm going to be over here. I'm going to be behind them, then I can flank them. So there's all these complicated plays that can be pulled off, but it's such a mind game, and it's like the game within the game, and it's such a fun skill. And I hope that these changes make it more viable and have people utilize it more. Let me see what people are saying. So let's talk about it. Player copies created with the ability decoy card can no longer shoot from blind or shoot when blind. That's a pretty good change. I personally have not. I don't feel like I've been tricked by a single clone from Trickster. I think they're fairly obvious. I've gotten lucky a few times and dashed past one because I locked onto the player first. So that was fun. But overall, I feel like it's fairly easy to tell where the decoy is. So that's the other part of me saying like decoy versus marking card. I feel like marking card is definitely the more fun skill. And I personally think I would fall for marking card more than I would decoy card. Cooldown time for the ability marking card has been reduced from 150 seconds to 90 seconds. That is huge. You weren't even able to use it that often. And I think that they had that huge cooldown because they thought it was going to be, if you were able to spam this ability, I think people were going to be using it too much. And I think this is the big change. Body visual effects when using the ability marking card has been removed. Now it's not going to be obvious that you're about to die, that you're choosing death, that you're all inning. You know, it made it very obvious that you were all inning, and then people were just ignoring you instead of that. Now you have the opportunity to be that trickster. Get it? And the time you were restricted from performing actions after being warped using the ability has been reduced. That sounds like a quality of life change for that ability as well. I'm very excited for some of those changes. But like I said, I feel like decoy card is a fun skill, but I feel like marking card is the more complicated skill. And by that I just mean that the stuff you can pull off with it is, I think, more trickster than hey, look at this little clone over here while I'm still running around on this side. So that's just my opinion. I do overall like it, and I think that is the end. Doing of the pretty well because people hit materia, it's strong, but guns were still at the top. Now we're getting to the point where there's going to be a dogfight in the back of what's going to be second best. And I mean, at this point, I'm going to start prioritizing melee more. I'm definitely going to. I know some other people are as well. And it's not in the sense that, like, I want to make it clear that I don't think that overall you're going to be able to use melee more. I just think that it's going to be safer to not only get in close to use the melee, but safer to use melee once you get in close. And I think that is what was really needed for melee. I feel like melee was in a good place. It just wasn't able to be used as consistently as guns. And I believe that the theme of this patch was to make things that were harder to make consistent more consistent. And that was melee and the materia, where we're going to see the sorcerers being able to stagger. So overall, I feel like this is a really good balance patch because it's going to balance out a lot of things. It's going to come down to the play styles. I really do think that guns are still going to be, outright at the top. They're going to be the standout of this shooter game. But melee and materia are definitely going to be more viable, in my opinion. So I'm very happy about this patch. I think that the game is going to be in a very fun state. And I hope that we can bring people into this community and continue to run some of the fun events that we have been hosting in the past, and I'm looking forward to hosting more. So thank you for tuning in.